Hello and welcome back to a brand new Toque de Football video. Real Madrid Club de Football has defeated Villareal 3-1 in the Santiago Bernabeu in the 8th match day of La Liga de España. In a game that was a tale of two halves, because the first half honestly was very lackluster, and if we learned anything from the first half, it was that we learned what both teams were going to do in this game, or what both teams were attempting to do in this game, because Villarreal, they were content with just sitting back and absorbing as much as pressure as they could. They were content with holding tight defensively and closing all the spaces off for Real Madrid, and they were content with playing on the counter attack. Real Madrid came out with their stellar starting 11. The only big change was that Fede Valverde was playing in the right back row, and I think finally we saw a great level of Fede Valverde. A Valverde who hasn't started the season great for Real Madrid, a Valverde that struggled in the midfield, a Valverde that just hasn't been at that level that we've seen him in the past few seasons, where to me he was one of the best players, if not the best player for Real Madrid. And today, as a right back, Valverde had a great game. He played great defensively. He made some great game-saving tackles, and he did a very good when it came to incorporating himself offensively with the team as well. But the first half was essentially Real Madrid dominating ball possession, Real Madrid dictating the tempo of the game, and Real Madrid relentlessly attacking and looking to break down that Villarreal defensive wall. Real Madrid attempted so many different ways to break down that defense. They attempted crosses into the box, and out of one of those crosses, I think Tchouaméni should have scored, because Vinicius Jr., who had a very great game today, Vinicius Jr. was the man of the match, and we'll get to him later in this video. Vinicius plays a great ball into the box right by the penalty spot. Tchouaméni gets in between both center backs of Villarreal and has a point blank header that he should have scored from. Unfortunately for him and for Real Madrid, he did not get the header on target, but with such a clear chance, I think Tchouaméni knows that he should have scored there, and Real Madrid should have been up 1-0 early in the first 15 minutes of the game. Nonetheless, Real Madrid continued to attack Villarreal. They continued with the crosses in the box. They continued with individual plays from their wingers, Mastantuono and Vinicius Jr., who both today had great games. I think they were the two best players offensively for Real Madrid, and both of them got their respective fullbacks that were marking them booked early in the first half. I think this gave Vinicius Jr. and Mastantuono more freedom to go at their defenders, to isolate themselves and try to create plays one-on-one, given that their fullbacks were already booked with about 75 to 80 minutes left in the game. And that's exactly what Real Madrid did. They continued to press Villarreal. They continued to attack them. They took shots from outside the box. They took shots with Guler, with Mastantuono, with Vinicius, with that classic cut inside and shoot. And they were very close. Ultimately, they couldn't break down the defense, and they couldn't get anything past Denas in the first half. And I think what Villarreal did should be applauded, because it was clear that's what they were trying to do in the first half, and it worked out. And honestly, Villarreal had the clearest chance in the first half. Real Madrid plays a bad ball down the middle that is intercepted by one of the center mids from Villarreal, and that Villarreal player plays a through ball into Uluwasai, who beats Hausen and Militao off pace alone, goes one-on-one against Courtois, and unfortunately for Villarreal and fortunately for Real Madrid, Uluwasai, it just seemed like he lost composure as he was getting closer to Courtois, as Courtois was getting closer to him and to the ball. Uluwasai just didn't know what to do with the ball and just couldn't beat Courtois near post, and Courtois makes a great save near post to keep Real Madrid leveled. Again, a great game plan by Villarreal, executed perfectly in the first half, and I think it would have gotten even better if they would have scored that goal. But ultimately, if you're going to try to beat a team like Real Madrid, you have to take your chances, and Dani unfortunately did not take his chance, and Villarreal were left with nothing but a great defensive work in the first half. Now in the second half, something clicked in the host, and Real Madrid came out looking for the game. Real Madrid came out even more intense, and within the first 3 minutes of the game, you get a play from Vinicius Jr., the best player for Real Madrid today. Vinicius Jr. gets a play down the left wing, beats his defender, cuts inside, takes a shot, deflection off one of the center backs and into the back net. And a great goal for Real Madrid to open the scoreline 1-0 early in the second half, and a very well-deserved goal for Real Madrid and Vinicius Jr., namely for Vinicius Jr., because today Vinicius Jr. looked like a different player than what we've been seeing for Real Madrid this season. a player that looked very hungry, a player that looked like he was out there trying to prove something to himself, to his teammates, to his coach, and to the world. I think today Vinicius Jr. took it upon himself to let the world know that, hey, you know what? Mbappe's not having a great game. Our team isn't breaking down this defense. I still want to prove to the world that I am the second best player and I am still very much important to this club as much as Mbappe is. And today Vinicius Jr. did just that. Today Vinicius Jr. was a menace down the line. Today Vinicius Jr. got Mourinho booked early. Today Vinicius Jr. did essentially anything he wanted down that left flank. And today Vinicius Jr. took it upon himself when Mbappe was having one of his worst games of the season so far. And it's very interesting to say that considering how great Mbappe has started this season. But it's true, today Mbappe did not have a great game. Today Mbappe struggled with goal scoring. Today Mbappe struggled with creating chances for himself and for his teammates. He literally was just clamped by Villareal, and anything he attempted was foiled by the Villareal defensive line. But Vinicius Jr., on the other hand, had a field day today. And if it wasn't for him having a great game, maybe Real Madrid wouldn't have been able to find the breakthrough and find these subsequent goals that came after the opening goal. But again, a huge congratulations. Maybe I owe Vinicius an apology because I've been bashing at him in previous videos, but today Vinicius took it upon himself to show the world that he is still one of the most important players and one of the best players in the La Liga and for Real Madrid. After the goal, we saw essentially what we saw in the first half, a Real Madrid that dominated possession, a Real Madrid that dominated tempo, a Villareal that looked unsettled. They couldn't find the ball. They were constantly chasing behind the ball. They were constantly just sitting back and trying to prevent Real Madrid to scoring a second goal. And Real Madrid's second goal looked closer than Villarreal's tying goal. And then, of course, in the 69th minute, we get our first controversy. A controversy because Vinicius Jr. gets a ball played into space from Bellingham. Vinicius Jr. runs into space, beats the defensive line straight off pace, and I believe it was Marin who comes and tries to intercept the ball from Vinicius Jr. He gets there late. He taps Vinicius Jr. in the box, and Vinicius Jr. goes flying and straight penalty call right away. Now, at real game speed, this looked like a penalty. I was watching the game. I saw it on the TV happen. I saw it in real game speed, and it looked like a straight pen. It looked like Marin completely collapsed Vinicius Jr. Now, after I saw the replay, I had my doubts. I had my doubts because it looked like Marin just barely brushed Vinicius Jr. He barely touched Vinicius Jr. There was no contact below the waist. There was no contact near the legs. The contact came right about the waist level or abdomen level or like chest level, like essentially the torso. And Marin got a very slight touch. Now, I don't know if it was because Vinicius was running so fast and the contact made him collapse the way he did, but it almost looked very theatrical and very dramatic on Vinicius' end. If I was the ref, I personally would have gone and checked it on VAR, and I'm honestly shocked that VAR didn't check it, that VAR confirmed it and didn't allow the ref to go check it, because I thought after looking at the replay in slow motion, after looking at the replay not in game speed, it didn't look like there was much contact from Marin that would have made Vinicius Jr. collapse the way he did. I think it was a little dramatic, but nonetheless, a penalty was awarded to Real Madrid, and instead of Kiki Mbappe stepping up for his penalty kick, Vinicius Jr. was the man that took the penalty. And I think this just speaks levels of the game that Vinicius Jr. was playing today. Like I said, he was a menace. He was constantly harassing the right back and Villarreal's defense. And I think today he was rewarded by a goal and then by getting this penalty kick. And of course, Vini steps up and slots the ball just narrowly under Tena's hands. 2-0 Real Madrid, and this goal looked like the goal that was going to put the game away, but Villarreal had a different idea, because literally minutes later, 4 minutes later, a bad defensive miscue by Real Madrid, not because they lost the ball in the back, not because they made an ill-advised pass, but because they were caught ball watching. They were caught ball watching, and Georges receives the ball in the top of the box, and none of the center backs, none of the midfielders closed him out, and he got a free shot from the top of the box, was able to slide it past through Courtois, and it was 2-1 all of a sudden. And from here on out, it looked like Villarreal had the momentum going for them. It looked like Villarreal, after this goal, got some confidence. They felt like they could tie this game, and they were really bringing it to Real Madrid. And not 4 minutes later, As soon as Villarreal was picking up some pace in this game, was picking up some steam, the second controversy comes. Another controversial call by the referee, and again, another foul that was because of Vinicius Jr. Again, Vinicius Jr. gets the ball in the left wing near the sidelines. He beats Mourinho off pace, puts the ball into space, and then he's running behind it, and Mourinho brings his hand out and touches Vinicius Jr. in the chest, as well as you see in the replay. Now Vinicius Jr. goes down, grabs his face, makes it look like Mourinho touched his face, and the referee, without any doubts, takes out the second yellow and subsequently the red card to Mourinho that sees him off and sees Villarreal go down to 10 men. Again, in real game speed, I don't know if this warranted a yellow card, if I'm being completely honest. Completely unbiased, nothing against Real Madrid, nothing against Vinicius Jr. I do all these videos very objectively, but again, I don't know if this is a double yellow, especially after looking at the replay. Vinicius makes it look like he touched his face, but in the replay you see that Mourinho just slightly puts his hand on his chest. Now, maybe in a different game, this is a yellow card, but in a game like this, with how tight it was, with the momentum shifting to Villarreal, with such weak contact, in my opinion, I think the ref should have maybe hesitated a bit, should have thought about the second yellow, but he went straight for his pockets and he takes out the second yellow and sends off Mourinho. No excuses whatsoever for Villarreal. I think overall Real Madrid were the better team at this point, and even with that momentum building for Villarreal, I think that Madrid probably would have still won this game. But you do have to talk about controversies like this because they tend to happen a lot in Real Madrid games, and they tend to always favor Real Madrid. And I think Villarreal have a right to be upset about this because, like I said, I personally don't think it should have been a second yellow. I think the ref should have been a little more mindful and maybe, had a talk with his other referees to make sure that this was actually a foul that warranted a second yellow. Nonetheless, Villarreal go down 10 men, and from here on out, Villarreal's confidence, Villarreal's momentum was sucked out from the pitch, and once again, Real Madrid started to dominate possession again, started to dominate the tempo of the game, and 4 minutes later, Brahim Diaz gets a breakaway on the right flank, and he looks like he's going one-on-one with the keeper. Instead of taking it upon himself to score, he plays a square pass into Mbappe, and Mbappe, not having his best game, is still able to get onto the score sheet with a goal in the 81st minute. That's just what goal scorers do. Raheem Diaz, very unselfish, knows that his goal scorer is there and serves it on a plate for Mbappe, and this essentially was the nail in the coffin for Villarreal. And like I said before, Mbappe did not have a great game. Actually, it might have been one of Mbappe's worst games I've seen him play for Real Madrid. One of his worst games that I've seen him play for any team. He just looked disconnected today. He looked isolated. It looked like Villarreal was trying to take him out of the game and making other players for Real Madrid beat them. And that's the thing with Real Madrid. Even when their best player isn't playing at the best level for them, they have other players that can do it for them. And today, I think Mastantuono did very well. I like Mastantuono's energy. I think Real Madrid should try to replicate Mastantuono's energy sometimes, because sometimes I see a Real Madrid that is very unmotivated on the pitch, a Real Madrid that is just stringing very slow passes from left to right, back and forth, and they become very predictable. And what I like about Mastantuono is that he's very unpredictable. He's either going to pass or he's going to try to beat you, and he brings a lot of great energy. But nonetheless, Mastantuono had a great game. Not to talk about Vinicius Jr., his best game yet for Real Madrid. And just collectively, I thought Real Madrid played great. I think they deserve this win. I think there are no excuses for Villarreal. They came with a game plan. They executed in the first half. Unfortunately, they couldn't score the goal off that one chance they had in the first half. And maybe the game would have been different if Uluwasaid did score in the first half. But nonetheless, Villarreal didn't look that dangerous for most of the game. Real Madrid dominated the game for at least 75% of the game. Villarreal had their moments in the first half and in the second half. But I think today the best team won. Real Madrid get a well-deserved 3 points, a very important 3 points, especially coming off the thumping they received from Atletico Madrid last week in La Liga. And today they played one of the better teams in La Liga, and they showed that they're able to pick themselves up and get a very important victory in the Santiago Bernabeu. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought about the game. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought about the penalty. Should it have been a penalty or should it have not been a penalty? Let me know what you guys thought about the second yellow to Mourinho. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content from Toque de Football.